If you're planning to travel into or out of the United States in the coming weeks, stop everything and listen closely. December 26th is about to change everything you know about crossing U.S. borders. I'm not being dramatic. This is the biggest shift in border security America has seen in over 20 years, and it's going to impact millions of travelers. Whether you're a green card holder, working on an H-1B, studying on a student visa, or just visiting family for the holidays, what happens on December 26th will fundamentally change your border experience. We're talking about a complete overhaul in how the United States verifies who you are at every single checkpoint. This isn't a rumor I picked up online. This isn't speculation from immigration forums. This is official policy straight from the Department of Homeland Security. And if you cross U.S. borders regularly, missing this information could seriously complicate your travel plans. Welcome to Dream Visa Updates, where I cut through the noise and bring you verified, accurate immigration information you can actually use. I'm your host, and what we're covering today is massive. We're diving into the nationwide expansion of biometric collection for every non-citizen entering or leaving the United States. This isn't just another policy adjustment. This is the final rollout of a congressional mandate that's been in the works for more than 2 decades, ever since September 11th completely transformed how America approaches border security. Before we go further, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. Immigration policies are changing constantly, and you need someone keeping you updated with information that could directly affect your legal status or travel plans. If this video helps you, show some love with a like and share it with anyone who travels internationally. Trust me, they'll be grateful you did. Now let's break down exactly what's changing, why it matters to you, and what you need to do to prepare. Here's what's actually happening. On October 27, 2025, the Department of Homeland Security published a final rule in the Federal Register. The official title is Collection of Biometric Data from Aliens Upon Entry to and Departure from the United States. It goes into full effect December 26, 2025. Let me explain what this means in plain English. Starting December 26th, U.S. Customs and Border Protection gets the authority to collect facial photographs from all non-U.S. citizens at every entry and exit point. I'm talking about international airports, land borders with Canada and Mexico, seaports where cruise ships dock, even private aircraft arrivals. This is blanket coverage across every possible way you can enter or leave the country. The rule makes several major changes you absolutely need to understand. First, it eliminates previous restrictions that limited biometric use to specific test locations. Before this rule, the system ran through pilot programs at select airports. Those limitations are gone. Second, it ends age-based exemptions. Previously, kids under 14 and seniors over 79 were exempt from facial recognition checks. Under the new rule, everyone participates regardless of age. Third, and this is critical, it removes limitations on departure tracking. For years, the United States had massive gaps in tracking who actually leaves the country. This system permanently closes those gaps. Now let me be clear about something. This technology isn't brand new. If you've traveled through a major U.S. airport recently, there's a good chance you've already encountered it. CBP has been testing and gradually expanding facial recognition at multiple sites for years using pilot programs. What changes on December 26th is that this becomes official, permanent, nationwide policy. The pilot phase ends. The system becomes standard operating procedure at every border checkpoint in America. Let me explain how this system actually works, because understanding the technology helps you know what to expect when you travel. The system operates through something called the Traveler Verification Service. It's sophisticated but straightforward. When you approach a screening checkpoint or departure gate, a camera captures your photograph. This isn't a photo you pose for. It happens automatically as you move through the process. That live image gets immediately compared to photographs the government already has on file. Your passport photo, your visa application photo, images from previous travel records stored in Department of Homeland Security databases. The comparison happens in seconds. In most cases, the system verifies your identity faster than a traditional manual passport inspection by a human officer. We're talking 2 to 3 seconds in many instances. The system uses cloud-based facial biometric matching technology to automate identity verification, which means it can handle massive volumes of travelers efficiently. What makes this system particularly powerful from a security standpoint is its ability to detect several critical issues. It can identify travelers using fraudulent or borrowed passports. It can flag individuals who overstayed their visas. It can detect people who were previously deported attempting to re-enter. And it creates complete, accurate travel history records that eliminate the gaps that existed in the old system. For many years, the United States had serious problems with exit tracking. When someone drove across the border into Canada or Mexico, there often wasn't an official record documenting that departure. Passport stamps were sometimes missing or unclear. Spelling variations across different documents could prevent records from matching correctly. The biometric system solves all these problems by creating a confirmed, automatic record each time a non-citizen crosses the border in either direction. This is probably the most important question on your mind. Who does this actually apply to? Let me give you the complete picture. This regulation covers all non-US citizens. Let me be very specific about what that means. It includes green card holders and lawful permanent residents. Yes, even though you have permanent residency, you're required to participate in biometric screening. It includes all visa holders across every category, F1 students studying at American universities, H-1B workers employed by U.S. companies, L-1 employees transferred from overseas offices, J-1 exchange visitors and cultural programs, B-1 and B-2 tourists and business visitors. Every single visa category is included. The rule also applies to visitors from visa waiver countries who enter under the visa waiver program. It covers refugees and asylees. It includes individuals with temporary protected status. And here's something that represents a significant change. Diplomats who previously had exemptions are now included in the system. The scope is truly comprehensive. Now there's one major exception, and this is important to understand clearly. U.S. citizens are not required to participate in mandatory biometric collection. American travelers who prefer not to be photographed can inform a CBP officer or airline staff member, and they'll undergo a manual passport check instead. However, and I cannot stress this enough, this opt-out option does not exist for non-citizens. If you are not a U.S. citizen, biometric screening is mandatory. There is no way to decline it. Let me provide some historical context because it helps explain why this is happening now. This rule was originally introduced during the Trump administration in late 2020. The Biden administration reopened it for public comments in early 2021, and the finalized version was just published in October 2025. This has been a bipartisan national security priority. Multiple administrations from both political parties have supported it because it fulfills post-9/11 federal requirements. The 9/11 Commission specifically identified a biometric entry-exit system as an essential investment in national security, and Congress has repeatedly reinforced this mandate through legislation and appropriations. According to the Department of Homeland Security, there are three primary objectives driving this massive expansion of biometric technology at the borders. The first goal is national security. In an era where terrorism and transnational crime remain genuine threats, the ability to verify with absolute certainty that the person standing at the border is who they claim to be provides a critical layer of protection. The system can identify known criminals and suspected terrorists by comparing live images against watch lists and databases maintained by law enforcement and intelligence agencies. The second goal is accurate identity verification. Traditional document inspection by human officers, while effective, leaves room for sophisticated fraud. High-quality counterfeit passports exist. People sometimes attempt to travel on documents belonging to someone else who looks similar. The biometric system makes these deceptions much more difficult because it's verifying your actual face against government records, not just checking whether a document looks legitimate. The third goal is immigration enforcement, specifically addressing the long-standing problem of visa overstays. Millions of people enter the United States legally each year on temporary visas. A percentage of those individuals stay beyond their authorized period, either intentionally or sometimes by accident. Before this system, tracking overstays was difficult because departure records were incomplete. If someone entered on a tourist visa and simply didn't leave when their visa expired, the government might not have a clear record of whether they actually departed or remained in the country illegally. The new biometric system fundamentally changes this dynamic. Every entry creates a biometric record. Every exit creates a biometric record. Immigration officials can now see with precision who entered, who left, and who remains past their authorized stay. This complete tracking capability represents one of the most significant changes in how the United States manages temporary visitors and ensures compliance with immigration law. Now let's talk about what this actually means for you as a traveler. What should you expect when you go through this process? For most lawful travelers, the day-to-day experience shouldn't be dramatically different from what many of you have already experienced. In fact, multiple reports indicate that facial recognition screening is often faster than traditional manual checks. The typical process works like this. You approach the checkpoint, you look into the camera for a moment. The system verifies your identity automatically, and you continue through. The entire verification often takes just a few seconds. Many travelers report that it feels seamless and actually speeds up the overall process compared to waiting for an officer to manually inspect documents. However, there are some important considerations and potential complications you should be aware of. First and foremost, this system creates a complete permanent travel history for every non-citizen. When immigration officers review your visa extension application, your green card renewal, or your citizenship application, they will now have immediate access to your exact entry and exit dates, all verified through biometric records. This level of precision didn't exist before. This is especially significant for green card holders. Permanent residents are required by law to treat the United States as their primary home and avoid unnecessarily prolonged absences. Before this biometric system existed, occasional missing records or unclear passport stamps sometimes made it easier to explain travel gaps or provide approximate dates. Those days are gone. Now, with every border crossing recorded through biometric confirmation, any extended trip abroad is crystal clear to immigration officials. If you spend 6 months outside the United States, they know exactly when you left and when you returned, down to the specific day and time. While facial recognition technology has improved dramatically in recent years, I want to be completely honest with you about its limitations because understanding potential issues helps you prepare for them. The Department of Homeland Security acknowledges that no biometric system is perfect. Several factors can affect how quickly and accurately the system identifies you. Lighting conditions at the checkpoint can make a difference. Camera angles matter. Shadows falling across your face can sometimes cause issues. Significant changes in your physical appearance since your passport photo was taken, such as substantial weight gain or loss, new facial hair, or different hairstyles, can occasionally affect matching accuracy. Research studies have shown that accuracy can vary slightly among different demographic groups. People with darker complexions, older adults, and women sometimes experience slightly higher rates of mismatches or failed initial scans. These aren't huge differences, but they're statistically measurable, and various civil liberties organizations have raised concerns about potential disparities in how the technology performs across different populations. So what happens if the system fails to verify your identity on the first attempt? You'll be directed to what's called secondary inspection. This is a more detailed process where a CBP officer manually examines your passport and may ask routine questions to confirm your identity. In the vast majority of cases, the issue is resolved quickly. However, you should be aware that secondary inspection can add anywhere from a few minutes to potentially longer delays to your travel time, especially at busy ports of entry during peak hours. My advice is to be patient if this happens to you. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It doesn't necessarily indicate a problem with your immigration status. Sometimes the technology just needs human verification, and that's a normal part of the process. Privacy is obviously a major concern when we're talking about government collection and storage of biometric data. So let me give you the facts about how your information is handled. According to CBP policy, photos of U.S. citizens taken during the verification process are deleted within 12 hours after verification. This is a deliberate privacy protection for American citizens who aren't subject to the same level of tracking as foreign nationals. However, for non-citizens, the situation is very different. Photos of non-citizens are stored in the DHS biometric database for up to 75 years, which aligns with current policies for immigration and travel data retention. Think about that time frame for a moment. 75 years covers essentially your entire lifetime. The government is creating a permanent biometric record of your international travel to and from the United States. The Department of Homeland Security has published multiple privacy impact assessments explaining how this data is collected, stored, protected, and used. These assessments detail the security measures in place to prevent unauthorized access and misuse of biometric information. The rule also technically allows for collecting other forms of biometrics such as fingerprints or iris scans, though facial recognition remains the primary method for the foreseeable future. Civil liberties organizations, including the American Civil Liberties Union and the Center for Democracy and Technology, have expressed concerns about this level of data collection and retention. They worry about potential government overreach, the possibility of data sharing between agencies, and the long-term implications of permanent biometric tracking. These are legitimate concerns that deserve serious consideration, even as the government proceeds with implementation. Let me break down what the system means for different categories of travelers, because the implications vary depending on your immigration status. For green card holders, you already know that authorities check your documents during re-entry to the United States. What's different now is that your entries and exits will be documented automatically and permanently in a biometric database. If you travel frequently for work or personal reasons, If you apply for citizenship or if you need to renew your green card, immigration officers will review this timeline carefully. The long-standing rule still applies. Avoid staying outside the United States for more than 6 months at a time, unless you have a compelling reason and strong supporting documentation. Extended absences can raise questions about whether you've abandoned your permanent residence. If you expect to stay abroad for a prolonged period due to family emergencies, business requirements, medical treatment, or other legitimate reasons, you should seriously consider applying for a re-entry permit before you travel. It doesn't guarantee absolute protection, but it demonstrates your intention to maintain U.S. residence and provides important legal documentation. For visa holders on F1, H1B, L1, J1, B1, B2, your legal stay in the United States is tied to very specific dates and conditions outlined in your visa approval and your I-94 arrival departure record. With the new biometric exit system, your exact departure date will now be automatically recorded with precision. Even a short overstay becomes immediately visible in the system. For F1 students in particular, maintaining proper status is more critical than ever. The biometric records will show definitively if you remained in the United States past your allowed duration, if you violated the terms of your status, or if you failed to maintain full-time enrollment as required. These precise records will follow you through any future immigration applications. For future immigration benefit applicants, when you apply for a green card, citizenship, visa extension, or any other immigration benefit, USCIS officers will have a precise biometric timeline showing when you entered the United States, when you left, how long you stayed during each visit, whether you overstayed your authorized period, and the pattern of your international travel, including any repeated or extended absences. This means keeping your own accurate records is more important than ever. You should maintain detailed documentation of all your international trips, including departure dates, return dates, destinations, and purposes of travel. Make sure your personal records align with what DHS has in their system, because any discrepancies, even innocent ones, can trigger follow-up questions during immigration interviews or application reviews. The Department of Homeland Security has made it clear that while the rule takes effect on December 26, 2025, the expansion will happen in phases across different types of checkpoints. Not every location will have the full system operational immediately, but the end goal is complete biometric exit tracking for all non-citizens at every port of entry. Phase 1 focuses on major international airports. High-volume locations like JFK in New York, LAX in Los Angeles, Miami International, Chicago O'Hare, Hartsfield-Jackson in Atlanta, Houston's George Bush Intercontinental, and Dallas-Fort Worth are leading the implementation. Most travelers passing through these major hubs will encounter automated kiosks or cameras mounted at departure gates. The system compares your live photo with the image from your passport or previous DHS records, and in most cases, confirmation happens in 2 to 3 seconds, allowing boarding to proceed normally. Phase 2 covers land border crossings. This phase presents more complexity at land borders where millions of crossings occur annually, particularly between the United States and Mexico and between the United States and Canada. DHS plans to introduce vehicle-mounted and pedestrian lane biometric scanners. You may see cameras installed above exit lanes, vehicle-side facial capture devices, automated license plate readers, and pedestrian electronic gates with facial verification capability. Travelers exiting to Canada or Mexico will increasingly pass through these biometric checkpoints, even if they've never had to stop for formal exit processing before. Phase 3 addresses cruise ports and seaports. Cruise passengers will also see significant updates. Most major cruise lines already use biometric entry verification when ships arrive in U.S. ports, and now DHS is expanding the system to include biometric exit processing as well. Passengers may be photographed when disembarking or when re-entering for final clearance before the ship departs. CBP estimates that achieving full implementation at all commercial airports, seaports, and land border crossings could take between 3 to 5 years. This is a massive infrastructure undertaking requiring cameras, software systems, network connectivity, and integration with existing databases at hundreds of locations across the country. One of the most significant changes is how USCIS will use entry and exit data when reviewing immigration applications. Because all travel information will now appear automatically in your immigration file, officers will be able to do several things they couldn't do as easily before. First, they'll compare your stated travel dates and application forms with actual DHS biometric records. Any inconsistency, even a small one caused by honest memory errors, may trigger follow-up questions or requests for additional documentation. Second, they'll verify precisely how long you stayed outside the United States. This is especially critical for green card renewals, I-130 and I-485 family-based immigration petitions, naturalization applications on Form N-400, and reentry permit applications on Form I-131. If the biometric history shows numerous long absences or frequent patterns of international travel, USCIS may ask for additional proof that you've maintained genuine residence in the United States. Third, they can now detect visa overstays within hours instead of months. The system provides immediate visibility into whether someone exceeded their lawful stay. Even a short overstay, sometimes caused by misunderstanding the rules or travel delays, will appear clearly in your permanent travel history. Given everything we've discussed, let me give you concrete, actionable steps to protect your immigration journey and ensure smooth travel under this new system. Step 1. Keep your documents clean and current. Make sure your passport photo clearly matches your current appearance. If you've undergone significant physical changes since your passport was issued, consider whether you need a passport renewal before traveling. Ensure your visa documents, green card, and all travel authorizations are valid and well organized. Step 2. Maintain your own detailed travel log. Create and maintain a comprehensive personal record of all your international travel. Document entry dates, exit dates, destinations, purposes of travel, and lengths of stay. Use a spreadsheet, a journal, or a dedicated travel app, whatever works for you. The key is ensuring your personal records match DHS biometric records as closely as possible. If discrepancies arise during a future immigration interview or application review, having your own detailed documentation helps explain and resolve issues. Step 3. Avoid unnecessarily long trips abroad. If you're a green card holder, be extremely careful about extended absences. If you must stay away for several months, keep comprehensive evidence showing your ties to the United States. This includes lease agreements or property ownership documents, employment records and pay stubs, federal and state tax filings, utility bills in your name, bank account statements showing ongoing activity, and correspondence demonstrating your intent to maintain U.S. residence. Step 4. Always maintain legal status. Renew your immigration documents well before they expire. Never work without proper authorization. Students on F1 visas should never drop below full-time enrollment without consulting their designated school official. Keep in constant communication with your immigration attorney or advisor if you have one. Prevention is always better than trying to fix immigration violations after they've occurred. Step 5. Prepare for potential additional screening. If the biometric system can't immediately match your photograph, understand that it's usually not a serious problem. It simply means you'll go through secondary inspection where an officer manually verifies your identity. Stay calm, be patient, answer questions truthfully, and have your documents readily accessible. Budget extra time for potential delays, especially during your first few trips under the new system.